council to order at 3 p.m. That's what my phone and my computer says. Ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council adopt the agenda for the regular council meeting November 14th as presented.
Yeah, my motion, Mayor.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that an omnibus motion adopts the following in accordance with council's procedure bylaw: October 23rd, public hearing minutes; October 23rd, org meeting minutes; October 23rd, regular meeting minutes; and the strategic priorities chart.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Any public comments before we get started? See none, hear none. Proposal to create tree art. Lee? And Jody just told me that you know who the creator is. Yeah, and you're going to keep it too, aren't you? Yeah. I don't want to know. I think it's cool.
I'm good. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, councillors, town staff, and residents. My name is Lee Peckham, and I'm a casual CSR at the Recplex. With me today is Darlene Donovan, who most of you know. She's the Parks and Facilities Supervisor for the town, and is here today to answer any questions at the end of my presentation about the actual tree. So walking through George Lane Park one morning, as I was watching Darlene and her crew cutting down the trees in the spring, it occurred to me that we shouldn't be cutting these. We need to cut them down for safety, but we should be trying to do something more with them because they are so beautiful and so old. So it was an opportunity to create something new out of something old. And many of the cottonwoods in the park are so old that I just thought we need to keep these. So I went home and started researching tree art, and it's not a new idea. Marcel? So George Lane Park is a staple of the town of High River. The park is enjoyed year-round by residents, day trippers, and tourists. Every year, several of the cottonwoods are removed, and we propose that the trees with healthy trunks be repurposed for art installations. Thank you, Marcel. There is a fallen tree on the Mercer land that supports tree art, and you see on this slide, this is on the west end of the Mercer land. It's a tree that was felled by beavers, and there is an artist that goes in and adds a piece to this tree probably every 2 or 3 months. So on the tree, there might be 6 or 7 pieces of this wood art, and it's very, very conjures up images of gnomes and fairies. And the people that have actually seen it, everybody knows it. And when you say, have you seen the gnome tree on the Mercer land? People are like, no, where is it? So it gets passed along. So this is one of the ideas that we have for one of the trees in the park. So as another example, I was in contact with the town of Orangeville, and they are also creating tree art. In their tree art, go ahead, Marcel. In their tree art, the artists are paid, and you will see from the slide there on the right that they're sometimes cutting down their stumps and putting them on concrete pads. We don't propose to do that immediately. It may come to that in the future, but not right now. There's one more piece. Thank you, Marcel. This is another 2 pieces that they have spaced around town. Okay, and then next, thank you. The City of London is also doing this. Their artists are paid. They have a 10-year life cycle maintenance program, and their installations are recoded each year for 5 years. And we would propose doing that also with our trees, recoating them for 5 years in a row with a, what is it? Safe and environmentally friendly product. And some of their art, these are examples of what they have put up. Yeah, there's some very, very pretty and good art. And then this one is in front of their library, which is very, very appropriate. Okay, some of the positive aspects to our project would be that the cottonwood trees share one root system. As if we grind one stump, we're affecting trees, several trees all around that one tree. So there may be less tree to remove, which could be a possible cost saving to the town of High River. And if we decide after 5 years we're not going to treat it anymore, which is the school of thought on this, and then the tree is left to the elements and new art is created year after year as the tree does deteriorate with the weather. And we've also discussed an honorarium as opposed to an outright remuneration for the artists. And as I've talked to people, I've been thinking about this for about 3 months now, and I've been talking to people about town, and they are very excited to be a part of this program, this project. So I've got 2 artists right now that want a tree, and we're hoping to get that done with your approval, of course, this spring. So on the other, I was at a Truth and Reconciliation ceremony in Calgary on September 29th, and I met a woman named Alex Giancarlo, and I was actually talking to her about this idea. She works very closely with Indigenous bands in southern Alberta, and she expressed an interest to have the Indigenous community involved in this project. And she was thinking for Truth and Reconciliation next year that they might be able to get something available for that. And so I do have, this was written several weeks ago, so it says I'm hoping to have the first artist on board. But like I said, I do have 2 artists on board right now. And our goal here today is to get council's initial reaction to this proposal and directions on next steps. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Lee.
You're welcome.
Very cool. Questions from council? Come on. Thank you. Somebody? I know it ain't broken. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pushing the wrong buttons over here too. Thank you. This is brilliant. And I too had the pleasure of finding the ferry doors in Mercer Lands, and it is such a sweet and unique little thing to come across. And I think something like this would certainly be very exciting for people to come and experience. So what is it that you're like, do you have a group already formed to sort of spearhead this? How do you envision this going forward?
I envision being part of a group that is already with the venue. Dinah, Fred, Ron Schmidt are in the very baby steps of forming something with the venue. And I have talked to them, so yes, I'm going to be a part of that group, but I will be voluntarily running the tree art piece of that. Mm-hmm.
And so have you had an opportunity to sort of put together an initial assessment as far as a budget that you might need or what that could look like?
I haven't. I'm hoping to get all my artists for free. The first 2 are doing it for their enthusiasm for the town of High River.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for that to continue because I have spoken to several other people. I'm on first name basis with so many people, I don't know their last names, so I really can't help you with that. But I envision it being very cost effective. We're going to have to buy the whatever product we use for the first 5 years to preserve the art. I'm going to have to do some risk analysis with Jody and her group, but that shouldn't cost us anything, I hope. Oh, it'll cost me. Yep. But other than that, I'm hoping for it to not be an expensive proposal.
Fair. And do we have a number of trees already sort of identified as possible candidates?
We do have a couple of large diameter trees that we've reduced the height to a safe height because they were quite large trees, but very large diameter, so we've just reduced them. So we do have a couple of really great candidates. Yes.
Councillor Barton?
Kelly kind of stole my questions, but I just commend you for putting this together. This is an awesome idea.
Thank you.
And I think that's it. I was going to say something about the relationship between the two of you, but it's good.
It's a
Appreciate
good
It
relationship.
is. Thank you for all your input and effort on this. It's
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Yeah, I'll echo the comments of co-counsel, but I think that this project is an ideal candidate for the CVAC funding as well. I think it really fits with their mandate, and I encourage you to approach those folks over there. You'll need some specifics, but I'm sure they'd be happy to support you.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
Two things. One, I love the idea of the truth and reconciliation piece being part of it, especially for the first one or two, because when I'm talking to the Stonies, a big piece that they feel is missing is some kind of recognition in town.
Okay.
And they always make reference to having something in George Lane Park, because George Lane Park is a very, very special and historical place for the Stonies. So I think that's my opinion. First kind of focus is to be really neat to have something, the first one kind of be reflective of the truth and reconciliation. The other piece is that artists deserve to be paid, right? So they've got talent. So if there's money that's needed to do this, I think it's only fair that council steps up. I don't believe in their talents being accessed for, I appreciate it if they want to do it for free, right on, but their talents are not free in my mind. But so CVAC, us, whatever.
Thank you.
We'll figure it out, right? So I don't want anybody to not be part of this because they're not being paid, right?
Okay.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Great idea. As a maker of the gnomes, and I have installed a few of those little doors myself, not in your park, but I have. The idea is brilliant. My ask is about the existing wolf sculpture that was badly damaged. Is that something where, somebody might enhance and rework that a little bit, or do we just leave that to deteriorate? Because that was originally a stump, was it not, Mr. Mayor?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a tree I ran away from home and was going to live in it when I was about 8.
And then they put wolves to scare you away?
Yeah, I figured there was enough food in 7-Eleven at the time that I'd be able to survive. But
Okay.
what was your question?
These sculpture or carving was a result of a stump that
when
actually
they cut the
was
tree
there
down,
in the
yeah.
ground.
Yeah,
Yes,
when it
thank
got
you.
too big and
So we
dangerous.
already have tree art in our community.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have talked to the assistant to Rocky when he did that sculpture to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And we did discuss going and having a look at that and seeing if there was anything that he could do
Mm-hmm.
to preserve or
Enhance.
yes. So that would be part of this. I'm not sure. I haven't looked closely at that sculpture for quite a long time, but he and I will head over there and have a look and see if there's something he can do because he is a woodworker.
Thank you. And then, of course, as Mayor Snodgrass mentioned, whatever you need, I hope that you'll come back and ask, because it should be paid for, and honoring and respecting the artists.
Well, thank you very much for your enthusiasm. It's very reassuring.
Councillor Jones?
Thank you. I love the project. One thing that you brought up was having sort of that 5-year commitment to the project. I know, like, for instance, with the wolf sculpture, there has been money spent on trying to preserve it, and knowing that this is wood and that these things will eventually deteriorate or possibly be damaged in other ways, that we need to, I think we need to understand that after 5 years, like you said, putting it back to nature and whatever happens to it kind of happens to it, instead of trying to preserve it forever. And understanding that bit around it is important, for sure. Because otherwise we become very attached to something, and then we're sad when it gets ruined and spend a lot of money, unfortunately, trying to fix something that might not be fixable. So, thank you.
Good point.
No further questions? I think we're good. Thanks very much, Lee.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Thanks for your input, Darcy. CVAC committee recommendations. Joss? All good. There you go.
Now it's on. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The Community Vitality Advisory Committee has unanimously voted to support an application for $4,000 funding the Spitzy School for an Indigenous mural. The proposed mural will be painted on 3 interior walls, and more than 350 kindergarten through grade 5 students and staff will appreciate it daily. The school's mural committee has been working with a local Indigenous artist as well as a Cree elder who volunteers at the school to advise on the project. The mural will depict the setting sun, the mountains, the Porcupine Hills, the plains with the First Nations person overlooking the Buffalo Jump, the Highwood River coming into town, the medicine tree, and other trees and animals common to the area. Each class will research birds native to the area, and the artist will incorporate each of the birds into the mural. Should council approve the recommendation for funding for $4,000, the Community Vitality Committee will still have $11,000 in funding for 2023. Does council have any questions about the application?
Thanks, Joss.
Yep.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you. I know one of the things that was brought up through CVAC was having it be a little bit more public.
Right.
Like I know it's in a school, and like you said, the school and the staff will see it. And I
Yeah.
did talk to the principal there, sort of just saying that, and she did say that it would be very cool to allow public community people to afterwards to come through and see it as well.
Right.
So she is open to that for sure.
Yeah, that's great. And that was something that one of the committee members brought up as well, because it wasn't in the public realm, but they still were very supportive of the project.
No further questions? I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council award $4,000 to Spitzy School to fund their Indigenous mural project.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joss. Development and Management Improvement Action Plan. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. As council aware, development management was on their strategic priorities at the beginning of the part of this year. And since we completed the review of our development management process with an independent consultant and moved that into kind of an action focus now, it has come off council's priority list. But the work doesn't stop. And so part of this now is to detail the action plan to move forward over the next 12 to 18 months, to see this kick-started so that the development community and the building community see that there's action behind the work that they participated in with our independent consultant. So what you see before you is focusing on the 5 kind of top priorities within that action plan, taking a look at getting access to a new electronic permitting system that will help us free up human capacity and allocate that resource to other planning projects or building projects, to begin looking at electronic payment systems to ensure that online applications can be clearly submitted completely, to launch a formal permit process. And I think this is the big part, is to sit down with the development business community, builder community, and understand exactly what their hurdles they faced and find ways to streamline the process. And that's got to be all that kind of done concurrently with the electronic permitting rollout as well. And taking a look at ways to, streamlining and reducing our permitting times. And that was kind of the common comment received from the development building community, is that there's a disconnect between when they think an application starts and when an application actually starts, when it gets complete within this office. And so we have to find ways to educate and communicate better so that we're all talking the same language, we're on the same page, and we're all aligned moving forward from that perspective. And then building that education and awareness program, not just for the development and building community, but for our residents as well, so they clearly understand what the process actually is, where they can participate, where they can provide comments and feedback through that entirety of the development approval process, so that neighbors understand what's going on, they can clearly see what's taking place on the property, and they know where they can ask questions from that perspective. So those are the 5 that we would focus on. The other ones would roll into this as we started knocking things off the list. And we have already started working on some of the aspects of things. We've got an RFP drafted right now for an electronic permitting system, and we're waiting to issue that with our finance ERP system, because we know that that's going to be tightly linked from that perspective. We've done some job description evaluation and rewriting some job descriptions as well to kind of reduce the redundancy and get clarity from that perspective. So we're doing the little things behind the scenes, but these are the kind of the big pieces that move forward that development management piece. The other thing that we'll be doing that will be a focus will be getting the building and development community together sometime in early 2024 in a facilitated conversation to start building that streamlined process, so that when we start selecting a software program that will help us be more efficient, that we have designed it based upon their input. Knowing that over time, their needs will change and we will have to have some ways to be adaptable from that perspective. While there are 50 to 60 tasks identified in this report, we're really focusing on the top 5 that probably have a total of about 15 tasks associated with it to move this thing forward over the next 12 to 18 months. It is funded. As the council's aware that we have been funding software improvements over the last couple of years to change out our software program. We were looking for that all-in-one package early in 2023, which became clear that we can't find that all-in-one package. And so we've kind of hived it off into buckets and making sure that they all talk to each other so that we're not duplicating data input on the very many platforms that we're getting for them. So our goal is to reduce from about the 50 software packages we have down to 20 or less, become more efficient, free up some human capacity, and also to use this software as a gatekeeper function as well, so that complete applications are the only ones that are submitted, so we don't get into this debate of what's complete and what's not complete. So that's kind of the summary of the project and or the action plan that you see before you. We're hopeful that your council is going to give us the support to continue moving forward in that direction, so that we can see these improvements and these the efficiencies implemented. Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass and the rest of council.
Thanks, Chris. Questions from council? I'll ask about items 3 and 4. in make sure I'm, yes, launching a formal permit process and reviewing the permitting process. Now, you guys went through a huge review of everything that's got us to this point. Do we not have enough information yet to be implementing changes? I don't understand why we're now going and doing another review of what you just reviewed.
So we do. And so basically it's reporting back to the building and development community about the enhancements that we're planning to undertake. It's about being very public in this rollout. It's about publicly launching it, and so in that they know that they've been heard. And so that's kind of the intent of 3 and 4. In addition, we need to also figure out how to move that timeline from what the developer's expectations are to what our legislative requirements are, and how to move those timelines more in alignment, and having that two-way conversation through that. That's part of the process that was not detailed in specifics, that we're looking at streamlining to reduce red tape from that perspective.
So basically the review, if I'm understanding correctly, the review that's been done was very internal. And what this is gonna do is broaden it out to the external
Yes.
stakeholders. Okay. Anybody else? Nothing? I'm not reading this whole thing. Ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that council receive the recommendations and support the following actions to be initiated in 24-25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 on mine, but yeah, I guess there is. And further that additional recommendations be implemented upon completion of the actions outlined above.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I'll give you that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, well done. BSRC Large Arena Slab Replacement Contract Award. Nancy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In 2016, administration engaged a consultant to conduct a facility assessment of the BSRC. At that time, the condition of the large arena was classified as marginal, meeting minimum requirements, significant deficiencies with above-average operating and maintenance costs. It was identified as a priority 1 for replacement. The assessment noted cracks and elevation changes in the slab surface. Although staff do their best to address elevation discrepancies in the ice-making process, the condition of the slab has deteriorated to a point where there is significant risk of failure. When the ice-making process commenced for the 23-24 season, the team identified that approximately 100 gallons of brine had leaked into the slab. Investigation from StarTech identified that 3 to 4 return lines at the south end of the rink are likely the cause of the leak. This in addition to multiple failing lines in the floor that cause inconsistencies in the ice. There is significant risk of a catastrophic season-ending failure. Replacement of the BSRC large arena slab will significantly improve ice conditions, impacting safety, maintenance, and operating costs. Administration has developed a preliminary design and budget for council that was presented at Committee of the Whole on August 14th, 2023. At that meeting, council determined to replace the slab to the current design, and an RFP was issued with that scope of work. The RFP resulted in 3 responses, and administration is recommending that council approve a budget of $2.1 million for the project, and that council award Bry Sand Ice Arena Limited the contract for $1,084,293 to complete the project. The project will be funded by MSI reserves. To maximize efficiency, administration will also complete 2 secondary capital projects, including a snow melt pit valued at $150,000 and purchase and installation of insulation for another $150,000 in conjunction with the slab replacement. It should be noted that the project is carrying a significant contingency to address the known brine leaks and what conditions may be underneath in the soil. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Nancy. Questions from council? Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. So, first of all, how long is this going to take?
It should be just
I'm not,
these,
sorry, let me back up. I'm not saying let's not do it. I'd just like to know for my own how long it's gonna take, because all of our teams are gonna need to know this.
the intention is that it's completed in the summer and would be ready for the winter season.
So it's not gonna, what about lacrosse? Lacrosse is in there after the ice comes out
Lacrosse would be moved to the to the field house, sorry.
to the field house.
Yes. Or if they can do some practices in the small, that would be available to them as well.
Have you had those discussions
We've
with?
started those discussions.
Okay.
They do know that the project is coming. We haven't gotten to the level of detail where we're talking about schedules yet, but all user groups have been informed that the project is coming.
And my understanding is the surface is actually heaved in points,
That is
so it's not
correct.
even really safe to be running on it
That
or
is
playing
correct.
lacrosse on it.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. Was there any consideration, I can't remember what meeting we brought it up in about looking at the penalty box, expanding that a little bit?
We did in that August meeting, and the direction from council was to issue the RFP with the design, the way that it is designed now.
Okay, I don't remember that part, but, all right.
Okay, no further questions. Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. You mentioned the significant contingency. I think it's about 40% or about $500,000.
Correct.
That's obviously over and above the proposed contract to the company you want to contract this to. Right.
Correct. So the 2.1, the 1,084,000 is the contract award, but the 2.1 is to cover the other two projects and cover contingency in case we find anything.
Yeah. Just a curious question about the award going to Brysand and the difference between them and the other two of about $300,000. Any insight you can give us into why there's a significant difference in that always, lower price is better, but when the other two were basically priced the same and we have this one coming in at about $300,000 less, it just makes me wonder, what are they doing that's more cost efficient, effective than the other two companies that were proposed? So
We did review their proposal and ensured that all of the scope was captured accurately, and did go back with clarifying questions. So we are confident that they bid the work the way it was scoped.
Nothing further. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council approve the budget of 2.1 million for the large arena slab replacement project to be funded from MSI reserves, and that council award the contract for replacement to Brysand Ice Arena Limited for $1,084,293, excluding GST and contingency, and that council authorize mayor and CAO to execute the design build contract to Brysand Ice Arena Limited.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you that motion.
Just a quick question from what Michael was asking. Did we check references with Brysand, et cetera?
We did, and they are very well known in the industry.
Okay.
So we are
You're
confident in the
confident with that?
decision. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Any councillor reports? Any board and committee reports? Board and committee minutes are attached. Museum of the Highwood meeting minutes. Any public comments? Joe? The what? What's a snow melt pit? I just do it there. Rebuilding the current one, right? No other comments? Council correspondence requiring action, donation request for Habitat Humanity, lunch with the mayor as a donation. We pretty much We've done this for a couple of years now. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that administration to work with Habitat for Humanity, set up a lunch with the mayor once the auction is complete.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd enjoy that, but I'll give you that
I
motion.
know it'd be horrible for you. Maybe we should do it. Vote on, or bid on this thing, then Kinghorn, we'll figure that out. All in favor? Carried. Boys and Girls Club Foothills, letter of support request. Ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that council authorize the mayor to sign the letter of support for BGC Foothills Club's application for grant funding under the Youth Employment and Skills Strategy Program, Youth Focus Projects.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Council's correspondence for information, Rimrock, Aquatic Expansion, Stars Community Gardens, Harvard District Healthcare Foundation, and the MD of Willow Creek. All applied. Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. To touch on one of those on the community gardens communication that we received. For those in the audience and listening virtually, the letter was from a resident that spoke about the lack of community garden now, and I believe there's about a 70-something person wait list for the community gardens that we have active right now. Obviously, some incredible participation there. I would like council or administration to look at some options where we could increase our availability of community garden in the community. And that sounded really bad. Anyway, to come back to us with some possibilities, some costs to do that, and for council to have a better look at that we could expand that obviously readily used activity that we have within the community. So if we could have that, I'd appreciate it. Hopefully council supports that.
I agree. So looking at different land locations, et cetera, costs.
Yeah.
I think the location is always the big piece with looking at community gardens as to where they're going to go, who are they going to impact, and
Yeah, always a touchy side. I mean, when I read this, immediately I live in the Northwest, very close to the community garden, across the schoolyard, sort of from it. I'm on the north side of NDC, and that community garden goes south to beside Riverside Drive. Anyway, there's a park space in behind there that, from my observation, doesn't seem to be readily used for an extreme amount of activities, and potentially just adding on to the community garden that's in that place right now might make sense, but obviously that takes some conversation and some feedback from the residents that are there and the participants that are using it and whatnot. But that was an immediate spot that came to my mind. I'm sure administration can come to us with other suggestions as well that can best serve the community.
perfect. Councillor Jones?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I think too, there is a board that takes care of that, of the community gardens. So I'm not sure how that all works, but I mean, if they want to expand, that's great. And if not, like, I don't want to step on toes or have them involved, you know, as much as they need to, for sure. So reaching out to that group of people would be important.
Did you have something, Jimmy? No, you're good? Okay. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with having the conversation with the residents that are there. Having lived right there on Riverside Drive, there's a huge green space south of their field or the walking track behind NDC and all the way to Riverside Drive. My hope is if it was done in a aesthetically pleasing way, maybe the neighbors would support it. But there's a bit of NIMBYism looking over the green space. So yes, it will be a enlightening conversation, I'm sure, but I think it's a great idea.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Yeah, these seem to be a bit of NIMBYism wherever we put them, and I was wondering, over along the river there, over in where the old town shops were perhaps, in that sort of Wallace area, would this be considered permanent infrastructure, or could a garden go in there of some sort, perhaps? There's no neighbors, there's no impact to the rest of the neighborhood. I don't know. I'm just saying, just throwing it out
Yeah,
there and
yeah,
come
yeah.
back to us.
My first, and I know exactly what you're talking about. My first consideration would not be where the town shops were, not be where Wallaceville, like where the old houses were. Up on the bench where the willows were, maybe. The reason is because when you build these community gardens, you have to have very high fences around them to keep wildlife out of them, right? So that's why I couldn't support those big fences being down in where the floodway actually is. Up on the bench, you know, a little less risk up there from flooding. So that's but I like the access that you can get to that area, and might be a way. And if the water does come, well, you get a bunch of mess to clean up. Big deal. So I think permanent stuff down below, I can't support it. But yeah, once we get, I think, I don't know who this is going to land with, Darlene or whoever, to start looking at locations and stuff. But there's definitely a demand out there. There's no question. This has been brought up numerous times over the years. So.
Anybody know how many plots there are right now? Seven. There's seven.
7 different community gardens around.
Where? I only know 2.
Um,
McLaughlin and, well, 3, McLaughlin,
Mm-hmm.
Shepherd, and the Northwest. I think that's it.
No, I thought there was.
Another one at the church that's by my place near UFA. They've
Mhm.
put one in there and have
Yeah.
expanded it as well.
That's for the church though, right? It's
Well,
not,
I'm pretty sure they let anybody come
Yeah, I
along that
thought they would.
wants to, but
Yeah.
okay.
there is also additional land space near the Shepherd Family Park. They are always full. That's kind of a natural fit. If we're going to enhance other areas and increase the number of garden plots, that might be a good place to start looking.
And there's also one proposed at Spitzy School too, as part of a learning program for the school, but also public access.
Okay.
And in addition to that, didn't we do an outdoor education program at Senator Riley? That was a CVAC initiative, yes? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. Nothing else. We'll move on into our closed meeting. So I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that council recess the regular council meeting on November 14th at 3:42 p.m. Move into a closed meeting.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. So 2 motions that we have to make, one regarding the library board appointments, the other one regarding BSRC concession rent relief. So the first one, I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that council appoint Kahina Yonts, Lorette LaPlante, Anita Van Roostelaar, and Ruth Ann Koyama to the High River Library Board for 3-year terms expiring October 31st, 2026, and the council direct administration to advertise openings for the remaining vacancies on the Town of High River Board's committees and return to council future date with recommendations.
Yeah, my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. And I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that council approve administration to waive the monthly rent fees of $400 for the remainder of the term at the BSRC concession with the Wiener Takes It All through December 2025.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And I'll ask for a motion that council recess the regular council meeting November 14th at 4:02 p.m. and move into a closed session. Motion from Councillor Kinghorn. Yeah, thanks. All in favor?
I was waving at you.